All right, everyone. The Democrats right now are concerned, and I'm actually going to try to calm them down a little bit with my analysis, which is hilarious because they're more worried than they really should be about this particular topic. They're worried that Joe Manchin is going to mount a 24 bid. Clearly, he's been shit-canned for Congress. He's not going to be reelected to the Senate. In some polling, he's 50 points behind his opponent. Now, his opponent, likely opponent, is the current sitting popular governor of the state. I personally think that his opponent, Mooney, I believe it is, who's in Congress right now, is a better choice, is closer to populism. But Manchin getting knocked off by the GOP is virtually inevitable. It's probably going to be a Romney Republican that replaces him, so there's really no ideological change, but he's going to lose his Senate position. 99.9% chance. There's very little that he can do at this point because he alienated people. He failed to realize that his stabbing in the back of the American people and of the West Virginians that voted for him, again, supermajority Republican state, many of his constituents were Republicans. He'd been governor at the time. It's the only reason he got into the Senate. All he had to do was do a reasonably good job of constraining his own party, and he was on a short list, certainly, for presidential candidates in the future. Here's why you shouldn't worry too much, though, Democrats, about Joe Manchin mounting a bid. Now, first assumption, he joins the 24 Dem field, so he decides to mount a campaign there. He's competing with Biden and RFK Jr. and hippie grandma. Second possibility, of course, whether he does that or not, he mounts an independent bid. He says, well, I can unite America because I've got all these great ideas that are going to get me reelected so handily. Vote for me instead of Biden or Trump. Anyway, let's look at the second first. Let's say he mounts an independent bid. I don't think, considering his lack of support among his constituents, the fact that he wouldn't have a mainline party backing him, the fact that he'd be taking flack from both sides to a miserable extent. The Republicans would hit him for being a Democrat, or at least at that point former Democrat, and having mostly standard liberal views. He has some moralistic views. He's not as anti-gun, etc. So he gets hit by the Dems. They would consider him a traitor and they would unleash unholy hell on him. I don't think it's possible for someone like Manchin to weather that. That's number one. I can't imagine what his constituency would be. Trump's core fan base would masturbate with sandpaper to vote for him. Biden's core fan base has no real ideological overlap with someone like Manchin. The problem is Biden's hardened voters will vote for Biden. We know that. They're hardened Biden voters. He does actually have people that support him. Hardline Dems, so just strictly partisan voters, you might get some movement to Manchin either in a primary or a general, but mostly they're going to toe the line with what the party by and large wants. They want Biden. I don't think that they flip to Manchin. If they did, if they stayed, it would be predicated on Biden having a major health crisis. Not just falling down, but falling down, breaking his hip, and being bedridden for a week. That might tip the scales in favor of such a thing happening. And I'm not saying that Manchin won't get into the race. Again, either as a Dem or as an independent. There is a possibility. My explanation of why, though, it doesn't really necessarily move the metrics is that most of those voters, Dem partisan, especially with the third party run, or Biden core, aren't going to go anywhere. Now then what does that leave? That leaves a lot of voters who effectively intend to vote for the Democratic Party simply because Orange Man bad. The anti-Trump vote. That's the third major part of the Dems coalition for that executive branch position, for the stewardship to be restored to good Joe here. Biden's core fans, there aren't many of them, but there are some. Dem partisans, there are a lot of those, by and large they toe the line, and anti-Trump voters. Which one do you think they're going to prefer, again, unless there is a health issue or something like that, or a mass defection of a significant number of Democrats? Biden. Not Joe Manchin, Joe Biden. Meanwhile, he can't, in a third-party campaign, he can't expect to rob too many votes that would have gone to Biden or Trump for that matter anyway. He'd be gobbling up he's not going to play spoiler. He's just going to gobble up people that otherwise may have just voted for Mickey Mouse or not voted at all. Okay, we've got this third-party candidate. He ends up getting 5-6 million votes. Whoever loses will blame him. And it'll be hilarious. And this could end up happening. You could end up with Joe Manchin jumping in third party, mounting an insurgency bid. He gets a few million votes. He gets 3% or something like that nationwide. And then whoever loses, regardless of which party lost, they blame Joe Manchin. And then it's almost worth it for him to do this, because if you are perceived of as playing spoiler, people will be writing books and hyper-analyzing everything about your bid for the next 50 years. Half the country will think you're Satan, the other half will be chuckling and drinking a glass to you. That's the most popularity that Joe Manchin at this point can ever hope to have again. He's not going to return to the Senate. He's already basically lost. He doesn't have any in-party support. His fundraising apparatus is non-existent. Have you noticed how absent he's been in politics lately? People were, a couple years ago, everything was Joe Manchin. Joe Manchin, kingmaker, which was true at the time. Joe Manchin, the stand-up guy. Joe Manchin, the face of the other Democratic Party. Will Joe Manchin run in 2024? The speculation was rampant. But then he decided to screw himself. He decided to hold secretive meetings with Biden, completely ignoring his constituents after assuring them that he wouldn't do exactly what he did. If Joe Manchin does want to have that burst of relevance, go out with a bang, so to speak, mount an independent bid. Leave the Democratic Party and mount an independent bid. Don't even bother with the Dem primaries. Then you get shit-canned and you look like sour grapes when you almost inevitably lose. Unless you think that Joe Biden's next aneurysm is coming awful soon, you should probably mount a third-party bid. I don't think it'll change the result. Whether Trump or Biden wins in the general wouldn't be affected by Joe Manchin because of his specific position. Yeah, he's a Dem, but he doesn't really align with the mainline Dems. Yeah, he has some support among partisans in both sides, actually, but it's not a significant enough amount, and it comes like 50-50. I'm not seeing what it would change in regards to the general election. And it wouldn't, in my opinion, change the trajectory of the primaries if he joins in and runs as a Dem. He probably takes more votes from RFK Jr. than he takes from Biden. So yeah, Biden, again, loses a few points, but the only other currently viable opponent then vote shares with another person, leading to Biden versus three people that are stalled out between 10 and 15. Well, Biden coasts to re-election. He definitely takes a beating. He definitely takes some flack. Joe Manchin or RFK Jr., by the way, could mount an independent bid if they lose. It wouldn't look good for them, but they could. I think, honestly, RFK Jr. would be the one more likely to do that. Whether he joins or not, though, is up in the air. You can speculate that there are reasons why he would want to, and there are reasons to sit it out. I bet the DNC is considering bribing him to just go away. I bet they're saying, look, you write your book afterwards. We'll make sure that our Chinese supporters over there buy 10 million copies. Look, you'd be loaded. You retire with grace. You had a decent career. You just made too many mistakes. And the main mistake, by the way, was playing nice with his own party. He's going to lose his Senate seat specifically because, technically speaking, he appeased that side of his voting base. He just forgot what state he was from. Rather sad. That's about all. Peace out.